All right. I enjoyed catching up with some folks out there in the reception. I'm glad we make time for that. Welcome, everyone. My name is Edith Fernandez. I'm your Vice President for Culture Planning and Policy. I just have a few quick updates before we kick off the programming. These are updates that are exciting and also are about the future of our institution that have great impact. The first is about strategic planning, and it is in full swing. We officially kicked off our institutional strategic planning process led by a fantastic group, a university-wide committee made up of 16 people. So if we could have our strategic planning committee members wave, say hi, stand up, woo, thank you, thank you. Thank you for helping to guide this process. Good to know who's on the committee to continue to ask questions and know who's representing you. We also want to make sure that we create opportunities for others to be involved in strategic planning. So we have designed some drop-in sessions. Our first is for students. This is kind of an informal walkthrough experience so we could showcase the work that we have done to this point and involve folks, make sure they feel part of the process as well. And the student session will start April 16th. We're also offering a virtual session as well, April 22nd. And again, April 24th, we'll have another in-person session. So please spread the word. We'll make these flyers available to you to share with your students, your colleagues, et cetera. Students share with your friends, et cetera. Now for a fun update. Last week, students received a text message from our very own Sting mascot. And this was an AI chatbot Sting version that was able to connect with students and reach out. What can we help you with? I mean, that's at the center, getting that immediate touch point. So Sting, the chatbot Sting, will follow up with students throughout the semester to stay connected and to also have the opportunity to answer questions directly, as well as then connect them to a real-life person as well. So there's different ways to make sure that we're following up with the students. So I love this innovative way of trying to meet students where they're at. It's an innovative way to use AI as well, and we'll see how it goes. The first day, within the first 24 hours, there were 540 texts received. So that's a good indicator. Woo, I like that. Before President Pollard takes the stage, I have a housekeeping update for you as well, which is we are making plenty of time for questions. And that can take the form of two ways. In person, so our KAB audience today, you'll have an opportunity to ask a question by lining up at the microphone, which is stage left, right over there, as well as Ruby. Ruby has a cordless mic. She can come to you as well. So raise your hand if you do not walk up to the mic. And to our colleagues and our students online, please read the YouTube description. You will find in there a link. Use that link to submit your question. We have Amy and Ruby then will ask the question on your behalf to the larger audience so Dr. Pollard can answer. So with that, President Pollard, welcome.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. They decided that Darian just needed to be the one talking this time, so I am going to the extent possible, and I apologize, I was on a plane this morning, and I know I got a little, some weird things going on because I was someplace where the allergy count was high already. So that being said, I'm delighted to be here. My intent, the way at least I've tried to design this, I want to give a couple updates, if you don't mind, and then after that, we'll pause if there are general questions. I'm happy to take those and go from there. And then there's a second half where I have more updates I can provide, but I also want to be respectful of the fact that people want to ask questions. So that's the plan for today, okay? So let me start off by saying, obviously, thank you all for taking time out of your schedules to be here. I know it's always hectic, particularly as we move into April. The semester starts to the academic year gets very frantic as we move toward the end. But I wanted to thank you all for being here. I want to start off by talking about a couple of updates, particularly federal landscape, state legislative session in Carson City, and then I'll do a little bit about local, and then I'll pause, and then I have about 2 or 3 other topics, but I'll hold those, and we'll see how it goes from there. And again, I may tap into some people to help me with questions. As much as I try, I don't have all the answers in my head, so I try to have as many of them as I can, but if I ask somebody to refresh my memory, please note you have been warned, okay? So the federal landscape, I don't think I need to tell any of you that there have been many changes in the last couple of months that we are watching emerge very thoughtfully and have caused quite a bit of confusion and uncertainty in the higher education space. We continue to be in contact with our federal and state leaders to communicate the challenges that these issues pose for us. I have to tell you, I'm appreciative of your patience because basically what I know is what you know. And right now we know that almost every day something is changing in these spaces, and we try to communicate it if we can. But I also have a very clear model in my head that I think is important to go into this, and at every time I just say no compliance in advance. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. We can be strategic and thoughtful as an organization, but we also don't want to respond before we need to respond. So with that in mind, we know that there have been, with the Department of Education, there has been an executive order and direction given to the new secretary to, quote unquote, dismantle the Department of Education. We know that on March 20th, the president issued the executive order to our new secretary to make steps to basically eventually shut down the Department of Education. However, we know that that's more complex than simply signing an executive order or simply saying that this was happen. In order for that to happen, there's congressional approval that's required for much of it, including given some of the dynamics about where our Congress is right now, we're monitoring that as well. I think right now, there's an election happening this week, I believe it is, that may potentially affect that. So we're watching very thoughtfully how the composition of the Congress will affect some of these things down the line. But we know that the administration has already taken some steps in advance to significantly change and reorganize the department. They're dismantling key functions, relocating positions and offices outside of Washington, D.C., transferring funding and planning functions like student loans to go to other government agencies, reducing the workforce. I can tell you now, I was just in D.C., and there's a palpable fear because it is not only going to affect the economy in that region, but we have thousands of people who are right now unemployed or know that they will be unemployed very soon. So the workload, I think Sandeep and I were just talking, there was some report that they were uploading to the feds, and they were unable to even do that at that point because there was no one there to actually receive the report. So we know that there are going to be some challenges along the way in this space. We also know that we are watching how this may affect any distribution of federal funds. We haven't seen that yet directly. We know our team has been very thoughtful in our grants office, financial aid. They're working very diligently. The minute they can post, they go and pull it down. But we're very thoughtful, and when I say pull it down, you have to ask the feds for your money. They give it to us, and then it distributes. What I'm very interested to watch is how this affects FAFSA and other financial aid processes for this upcoming year. So we're monitoring that. The Big Six, those are the 6 major educational associations in D.C., are monitoring. They have put in a series of judicial actions that they're suing and asking for clarification around, but we're monitoring it. And right now, we just simply don't know what's going to happen in these spaces. We also have seen the order that said to, quote, effective and uninterrupted delivery of services, programs, and benefits. This is what the order has said. They want to ensure that. we know that the fact that you don't have enough people to do it is going to present a problem. The systems have to be changed, the processes have to be changed, and we also know that we're waiting more specific language from the feds as it relates to the exclusion of diversity, equity, and inclusion awards and programs. They say that promote gender ideology. Again, we're waiting. What I tell people, and a lot of you have asked me this along the way with Darian, what's your perspective on this? And I'll tell you, we serve our students at Nevada State University. I had the privilege of oftentimes talking with groups about this, and one of the things that I don't have to talk about DEI the way that they talk about DEI. I talk about who our students are. So I see my goals as 3 primary functions: to protect our mission, protect our students, and protect our employees. And if I can do those things, being very direct and honest where I can, and also, though, not choreographing or teleprompting them on certain actions that we are taking, it's important to do that work and know that we're very intentional about that. I know that it's not going to make a lot of people feel good because I don't have all the answers. I don't think any of us do. If you watch what's happening on the pages of Chronicle of Higher Ed, Inside Higher Ed, you know that there is much disruption. Fortunately or unfortunately, the area of focus has primarily been the Ivy League and the APLU R1 institutions. They have not yet focused directly on ASKU institutions such as us and community colleges and other institutions that don't fall into that space. I think we're going to see a somewhat change in that now in some of their areas of California, although they're still tapping into the R1s right now. But we know that there's going to be, and I think an investigation was announced this morning into some of the California UCs. So I think we just have to be thoughtful about how these things are going to play themselves out. I think we also are being thoughtful around changes in immigration policy. The college campuses enjoy what they call protected areas. Previously we'd had those have now been revoked by the federal government. This means that ICE can carry out enforcement activities on our campus with the proper legal authorization. With the proper legal authorization. With the proper legal authorization. I say that because we oftentimes want to be very responsive, as we should at any point. We are a public institution and we have certain responsibilities that we have to respond to, but there are legal protections for students. There are legal, or I should say for those who are being sought by ICE, there are legal protections that we have as an organization. So I really want to thank General Counsel Berna Rose Ford for immediately working to get clarity. I know there have been a number of sessions where we tried to talk through postings on walls in classrooms and bulletin boards to make people be aware of that. She's also designed and trained specific faculty members in every building to properly handle when we do receive an official proper authorization. We have not yet, and I think it's important that we're very thoughtful about that. What I've seen happen is that rumor and innuendo spread rapidly. Please know we have not had ICE on our campus officially or unofficially that I'm aware of. More importantly, we understand what our protocols are, we've practiced them, and we're hopeful that those will allow us to be very diligent as an institution. But let me be very clear. ICE has the right to come on campus in common areas, which in those areas anyone coming to the campus would have access to. However, this right does not extend to offices, classrooms, or areas needing access to be granted. Signs have been placed that are designating private spaces on classrooms and instructional labs, very important. So for students, if you see ICE on campus, the only role for you to do is to alert a faculty member so they can follow the process that's been established by our general counsel. Please do not interrupt or interfere with any activity. There's an FAQ available on the employee and student profiles, which provide, profiles that allow us to have more information and also understand who each of the building liaisons are. So all of that being said, I wish I had more direct information for you. I don't. What I have is what we try to share. We did receive some information from ASCU, our educational association, which we sent out earlier this week. When we have that, we'll make sure we forward that, but we will be navigating this space together and being thoughtful. I did attend last week the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration, and we had a very thoughtful conversation around what our roles are now. And you're going to hear me start to talk about some of the cases that we need to make in this space based on some, I think, collective national strategy that a number of organizations are helping us to develop. This is going to require strategy. It's going to be not rock and roll. You know, one of the things that a lot of people talked about in the last Trump won presidency, we saw us operate from a place of defiance. And we kind of drummed in like rock and roll, and we just did it, and we did what we thought we could do, and we had certain rights and protections in place that we thought we could utilize. And then COVID came, and COVID then rechanged the game. And now under Trump too, I think it's going to require us to be a little bit more thoughtful, strategic. It's not going to be rock and roll. It's going to be more like jazz now. We're going to have to improvise. We're going to have to understand there is a method to it, and it may not be obvious to everyone every time we do something, but it's very thoughtful that we follow the law so that we can protect the mission of our institution, that we also, though, are very deliberate about understanding what that law is and what protections we have as an institution. With that in mind, just a little bit more about the legislative spaces, and then I'll pause. We're seeing that this uncertainty at the national, just in case some of y'all wonder, yeah, I just had a hot flash, can't you tell? They just come, Jesus be offense. Whew, sorry. I don't know if anybody else has these, but I haven't. I had that tea, and that is not helping. So, oh, thank you, I can fan myself. The uncertainty at the national level is really impacting our outlook at the state level. In addition to potential reduced funding caused by the dismantling of the Department of Education, a proposal in Congress to cut federal health care spending by billions of dollars could have a devastating effect on the state of Nevada, our programs and services, including higher education. Unlike the federal government, states cannot run an annual deficit. So as a result of that, the legislature and the governor would need to find ways to absorb any significant cuts that happen at the federal level. So Medicaid cuts are oh, I got one. Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. The water don't help right now, but thank you. I need about 2 more minutes. I'll be all right. There are also several state-specific funding issues that could impact our ability to effectively deliver on our academic mission. We know at the top right now, and I've been very clear about this, we have 2 big pieces of issues that are sitting right now in Carson City. One is COLA funding. A top priority of NCHE has been for this session to ensure that the COLAs that were authorized last session and approved by the Board of Regents would indeed be funded on an ongoing basis. While there was a one-time appropriation in the governor's recommended budget, it is not clear yet if the legislature will agree to fund the COLAs at the same level as has been proposed in the governor's budget. So we continue to be thoughtful. I was just in Carson City 2 weeks ago and met with a number of our legislators to talk about this. They have a fundamental different understanding about this than we do. And they want to see the regents address some of this work, which I think the regents are going to have to take up some. But we have that issue there. The second is the funding formula. The governor's budget also recommended, included partial phased-in implementation for the updated funding formula. Those of you may have recalled during the last year, there was a group, a task force that worked to put together a new funding formula that recognized that the 4 community colleges and the state university had not received adequate funding under the current funding formula. However, there was no new money provided as a part of this. So what ended up happening is that it would need to move money from UNLV and UNR, about $20 million, to do that in order to adequately fund some of the work that has not been funded for the 4 community colleges and the state university. As a result of that, there are many in the legislature who are very concerned about that transferal of dollars from the 2 R1 institutions to the other 5 institutions. This is a very thorny issue. Those of you who spend any time in the legislature know that there is a very robust investment by many members of our elected folks regarding each of our institutions in the state. But they're very clear when it comes to the R1s. They don't want to adversely impact their R1 status, and they're concerned about what transferring approximately $20-some million from them would do, because it will have to be done in the following years as well. So these issues, if you put that there, COLA funding, the funding formula, and then SB 181, we do know just very positively, just in the legislature, No, 181. That's okay. That is Senator Cruz Crawford, who's sponsoring our license plate bill. We're very excited about that. We are excited. I am. I just think it's kind of cool, but it also will allow us to generate some additional resources for the institution, particularly around basic needs and also to fund athletics. Those are the 2 areas that are in that particular piece of legislation. So we'll talk about that as it comes about, but that's been advancing, and there seems to be some major support that's happening in there. So those are the things that are happening at the legislature. Locally, if you think about the fact that we have enjoyed tremendous support from the city of Henderson, we know that if there's instability right now at the federal level and at the state level, us working to hold on to our wonderful partnerships locally are really important. So we've continued to engage in very thoughtful conversations with the city of Henderson. Our hope is that the road will be open here soon. I don't know about you all, but that is quite the experience. I think Tom was telling me he actually lives right over there, and it takes him a good 30 minutes some days to get home or to work. So I think the people who live there will be excited. Those of us who come and go will be excited. But I also share with you that both the city of Las Vegas and the city of North Las Vegas, they have been very deliberate in working with us. They would like to establish a Nevada State University presence in both of those areas. In fact, you may have seen it last week's State of the City address. North Las Vegas Mayor Goins-Brown announced that we're close to an agreement to build a satellite campus there. They are actually going to build it and allow us to be able to program it and forward fund that. And the same with the city of Las Vegas. They are wanting and very desirous of us to have a presence in their medical district to work specifically on some deep competency areas that we have as an institution. So we are working through that, very excited about those, because the thing that we know we have to do as an institution is generate enrollment. This is where we can help ourselves to the extent we can. So that is my overview of kind of the federal, state, local. I'm going to pause and open myself up for questions, and then if I have time, I have more updates around other issues, but I want to make sure that I didn't talk too much and open it up. So who'd like to go first? There's a microphone here, and I would ask you to use the microphones because I know that it helps everybody hear. You can take it off. Go ahead.
So my question is, are there any updates or advancements made on athletics on campus?
We are very excited about that. That was actually one of my updates, but we are going to be moving forward with our athletics. Spring 26, we will have women's flag football and men's track and field, 2 sports not currently offered in the higher education space here. We'll be starting as an independent, which gives us the flexibility in strategically entering the space. is our hope that we'll have an athletic director hired to start by July 1. And once that person's on board, they will go quick to schedule games, hiring coaches, and of course, continuing to recruit our student athletes. We hope to have some announcements coming out very soon about that. My son is our unofficial social media person for some reason, so he always lets me know when other people are interested in us and have quote-unquote committed to Nevada State, which I find to be quite interesting. So we're watching this, and as a result of that, this has allowed us to do some fundraising as well. Erin and her team have done a very good job. We've been able to secure gifts from the Las Vegas Raiders, the Vegas Golden Knights, and the foundation to start off to help us with that, and we have some other ones that will be coming in soon. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for taking the time to take questions from us today. I appreciate you being here. So my question is, what should we as the campus community know about the most recent governance task force report?
Oh, thank you for that. I think I sent out a communication that went out to the university community indicating that the task force, after I think over a year of working together, offered a set of recommendations in that there were, I think, 10 recommendations. I accepted all 10 of those recommendations. They did phenomenal work in that. In short, they recommended us to more formalize our structure around governance, the creation of a college council, an adoption of a definition of shared governance. They asked for the creation of some other entities as a part of that. I've charged Provost Fry to work to bring forth an infrastructure to respond to that. They also requested, I think, some very specific training. So I sent that out to the university community. My hope is that sometime over the summer, if not before, I would imagine before the end of the semester, you'll get an update as to where we are with that, and then we'll have something more formally launched in the fall when everyone returns. Or maybe not you because you're graduating. You're welcome.
Another question, can you tell us about any preparations we've made in the future for student loans in case they get impacted?
Well, we have not done anything about that because one of the things that we've been told consistently from the feds, and anybody here from financial aid wants to correct me on this, their concern, the federal government's concern with ideology has not been, their intent is not to impact students. So what they see financial aid as in institutions is a pass-through. We simply receive money for the Fed so that students who need financial aid, whether that be Pell or student loans, should still have the ability to pursue that and receive it, which is why, for all intents and purposes, even in the craziness that we've seen very little disruption in any of the federal financial aid. So my assumption would be at this particular point that that would still be available. The institution doesn't have capacity to do loans itself. We do have capacity to maybe do some shifts in terms of when funds are due, when students have to make certain payments. But at this particular point, our assumptions in this upcoming year are going to be that they will remain the same until we have heard otherwise.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question that was just submitted online.
Mm-hmm.
What is the proposed COLA?
What is the proposed COLA? So there is not a proposed COLA for the upcoming year. This is actually a great question because some folks have, we received 2 COLAs as employees of the institution, of the system. I get them reversed in order. One was 11 and one was 12%, or 12 and 11. I don't remember the exact, over the past 2 years. And what we have asked the institutions for, funded that ourselves. And what we're asking the governor for, and what he allocated in his recommended budget, or at least partially, was a reimbursement to the institutions for that so that we can continue to fund those. At this particular point, he did, as I said, indicated that the COLAs were part of his recommended budget, but given the volatility at the federal level, many people within the legislature are very concerned about that. In addition, in some of my informal conversations with some of our legislators, they also know that they see that we should be generating more revenue ourselves to help cover that. Because while they gave permissive language to the regents to allow for COLAs to match the same as what the state did, they recognize, their belief is that the regents and the institutions need to fund it ourselves. That's what we're supposed to do. So what's going to be interesting to watch in this is that there are only two major sources of revenue that the institution has. One would be state appropriations, and what's the other? Exactly. So as a result of that, many within our regents, and actually I'll say it's even within the legislature, are very resistant to increased fees. However, we don't have a lot of other spaces where we can actually generate income. I'll also note that Nevada it continues to be near the bottom in terms of student tuition paid for its education. But we also are a state that also does not provide enough state revenue for higher education as well. So it's a very challenging situation to figure out how they're going to respond to it. The most significant impact right now, though, out of all of this is going to be the Medicare issue. If the feds cut Medicaid the way that they have planned and indicated that they will, the states cannot leave people uninsured, and they only have a certain number of places where they can go and get funding for that. And that means they're going to have to reduce other areas across the state to do it. Great question. I hope I responded to what COLA is. Cost of living adjustment. Please.
Hi, Dr. P.
Hi.
As Vice President, I know diversity is vital to NSC, of course, and with DEI challenges growing, how are we ensuring it remains a priority in hiring and curriculum and, of course, student support?
Yeah, one of the things I think, and I really love this question because I find folks, I was just with a group of folks on a national board, and one of the conversations they had to me, they said, Darian, you are one of the most vocal people nationally about the work we're doing in this space. And yet there continues to be a lot of questions that come to me personally, but also to our institution about how are we going to protect this space. I think that I told them, and what I'm telling you all and what I say every place I go locally as well, when I talk to donors and I talk to our elected officials and our regents, all I do is talk about our students. So when we start talking about DEI, I talk about the fact that over 75% of our students are students of color. 50% of our students or more are first-generation college students. I talk about 80 to 90% of them will continue to live in state. Approximately 20% of our students are parenting students, the best that we know of, and I can go on and on and on telling you about who our students are. So I don't have to make exception to think that I'm trying to indoctrinate anyone. Someone commented in a survey that I only talk about certain types of things, and I said, no, I just talk about who our students are. And as a result of that, I speak very thoughtfully about protecting those things. I protect our mission. I protect who we serve, and I'm very deliberate about the fact that we also have to be strategic about these things. And we have to think about how we plan thoughtfully and deliberately. And some of you all saw this happening over a year ago. And you said, okay, how are we going to be doing this? How are we planning? Some of us stuck our heads in the sand. Some of us were like resistant. That's not going to happen. And we kind of waited, and all of a sudden, look what happened now, right? So we have to be very thoughtful. I think it's this genuine effort of saying, let's continue the work that we do. That work may have a different name from time to time, because what we don't want to do is make ourselves open to be preyed upon. We don't want to be attacked, and at the same time, we want to make sure that we're able to deliver on the promises and commitments that we have as an institution. So for me, I think I work hard to articulate that mission, talk about who our students are, protect academic freedom, protect our right to do the work that we do, and I also work with you sometimes in front of the scenes and sometimes behind the scenes to say, let's think about how we talk about that. Let's think about how we show up in these spaces. And that simply is oftentimes a way of making sure that the radar, or we don't get caught in the bullseye from someone else.
Thank you. And I
Thank you.
I have a follow-up
Please.
question. With conversations on COLA and possible discussions of student fees and our expansion, would you anticipate student fees being considered for our upcoming expansion to not just North Las Vegas and City of Las Vegas and Reno?
When you expansion of fees, you mean fees being increased for that? No. So we don't typically, as an institution, we would not, I have not proposed, and I don't think the board will even entertain it. It's not anything that I would do to say we're going to put out a fee for expansion in these two areas. What I would do, though, what I think is important, do I go and look for private dollars or partnerships to do that? So the city of North Las Vegas is forward funding this initiative there by $7 million. People often wonder, what are you doing, Darian? That's what I'm doing. So going out and we're working with them to say, okay, can you forward fund this for $7 million? They're building the facility, and then they're going to forward fund us on programming and then allow us to be able to utilize when we get money coming to the state for attendance or participation by our students, and that we'll be able to have it. What I think is really important about this, though, and I think your question illustrates this, there will have to be a conversation by the regents about fees. They are not going to be happy with the notion of fees. So we're going to be in this moment where something's going to have to give. I tried to do, and going to your question as well, one of the things that I started, my first year, I think it was after my inauguration, or whatever, I was installation, I made some announcements about changing positions that I was doing. I think I promoted 2 people to vice presidents, and that caused quite this tension within some parts of the organization. And at that moment, I learned an important thing. As an institution, I wanted to start letting people know what's in my head about where we're going with certain things. So every year after that, I've done 2 things I've tried to do. One is I've asked the vice president for finance or myself to put out a memo that kind of talks about my assumptions going into this budget cycle. What are we thinking about? What's out there? How are we thinking about responding to it? What are some of the macro pressures, local pressures as well? Where do we see opportunity? And we put that out there. And then the second part that I learned, I think, in year 2 was also to have periodic updates that go to the university community. So that's what I'm trying to do now, learning from that experience, that if we all can be on the same page, at least to know what I know, that allows me to show up consistently in different spaces while at the same time allowing everyone else to know when we go back. So as we said the other day, we have a delta, and we got the budgets that requests that came in. We're about $2 million more in requests than we currently have. That assumes that there are no changes to the existing revenue. But I just told you that we might have some changes. So we're trying to be very thoughtful about that. The area where we have the most control is going to be enrollment management. And that's where you're going to, and you've heard many of you say, I know enrollment management is everybody's responsibility, except students. Except we want you to get registered ahead of time and all the types of things that go with that. So that's how I see it all working together. I hope that was a long answer to your question. My caffeine's kicking in.
No, it was great. Thank you, Dr. P.
Thank you, Dara.
With any changes being made in the institutional space for organizations, are there any proposed initiatives to transition current students to not fall through the gaps?
Yeah, actually, I think there are. I would offer that the work that we're going to be doing with our STARS program is exactly that, is really taking something that we've done fairly well at the institution and trying to figure out how do we maximize that across the institution for multiple students and to really double down on that space. Nevada State has always been an organization that has adopted a number of high-impact practices. How do we take those high-impact practices across the institution? And then you'll be hearing in the coming weeks, I'm hopeful, both from the provost and also from the vice president of student affairs, different initiatives that they're thinking about in the upcoming year that really target this belief that we know, and actually I think that bot that we just talked about is another great example of oftentimes students don't know how to find their way into the organization. How do we identify resources for them? How do we connect them? How do we outreach to them? I'm very excited that we'll start to see some growth in those spaces as well.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for taking questions, President Pollard.
Yes, sir.
I have 2 questions for you. Both of them are budget-oriented. Most Nevadans are pretty accustomed to biennium shenanigans around the budget and not really knowing what's happening until June. But this year is different. Is there a sense of whether or not we will really have an understanding of what our budget will be in June? And are there contingencies at NSHE right now for what will happen if something happens with Medicare and Medicaid outside of the biennium?
So thank you for that, because we've talked a little bit about this. We know when I came back from Carson City a couple weeks ago, two things I left with. This is only my second time in the biennium, but this biennium feels completely different than any other biennium I've been in. And I've only been in one other. But everybody who's talked to me, they said it just literally, it feels different in Carson City, and it feels different now because there's so much uncertainty. So you have that. And as a result of that, so that was the first takeaway. The second takeaway I had is that there will probably be minimally 2 special sessions. I have no doubt in my mind that there will be special sessions. One is because the federal budget will not be completed by sine die. Sine die, I think, is June 2nd. The federal budget won't be done by then, so they will come together to talk about and respond to that. And then there's going to probably likely be a second one to respond to that. So you've got Medicare, they've got to deal with. They're still trying to figure out other revenue shortfalls. Nobody's talking. I heard this the other day, and it struck me. And I was on a group meeting, and 35% of revenue for the northern part of Nevada, was it 35%, comes from federal grants for the north. So no one has done that calculation for the south, and they're scared to do that. I didn't mention this in my talk a moment ago. Institutions who are dramatically impacted by this right now, DRI, very, very much, and even our 2 R1s, as those of you know, they've had dramatic impacts. So I think if we watch even, there was a newspaper article today about support for folks in HHS. So long story short, the ripple effects are going to be significant. So I have a sneaking suspicion. The board, in theory, is supposed to have they're supposed to take action in June after the sine die, and then we're supposed to have a budget done by July 1. I don't see how we do that.
Thank you for that. One more question about our budget. In the budget email you sent out on Friday, you included an item for $700,000 for union-related expenses. We've had the classified employees union here. We will hopefully have NFA union here. And so I'm wondering if you could explain that budget item.
Sure, happy to. So a couple things, and you've heard me talk a little bit about this, and those of you who haven't, I'm happy to do this. Prior to, I've never not worked in a collective bargaining environment until I came here. So for me, unionization is a very real thing. I also am very familiar with unionization. I was a part of a union as a faculty member. I negotiated the first part-time faculty contract at College Lake County. I've served on the negotiating team both for the board when I was at College Lake County and as well at Montgomery College. So the thing I probably have a deep competency, maybe more than a lot of people within the organization, is around collective bargaining. And there are 2 things I know about collective bargaining. One is that it is a fundamental right that we want to encourage people for as employees. If you want to pursue that pathway, all in. That's why you have not heard me say one thing other than what you heard me say in different spaces privately about it. Go do your work. Do what you got to do it. Collective bargaining also costs money, and you have to be planful for that. There are 2 areas where it costs money. One is that you are typically in the first contract, which is why that $700,000 is there. A first contract is the most expensive contract you will do because you are going to heavily rely on outside attorney to help complement your internal team. We will have an internal team that our general counsel will be on, or at least consult with. Our human resources AVP will be on, and a number of different people will still put a team together. But they'll be responsible for negotiating that contract. So we know that lawyers' fees and the fees associated with contracting a contract cost much more in the first year. Secondly, you will have to staff that contract once it is completed. Inevitably, and while we have had, as you described, classified unionization here, that is a state contract. We don't do any of that management at the institution level. So this will be NFA on this campus. So as a result of that, we will need to have staff to negotiate and to support the contract. Most organizations call that labor relations. So you will see, I think for us, we're estimated probably at least another attorney that we will have at the institution, and with bennies and salary and benefits and all the things that go with that, and also external fees. That's what we estimated that to be. That's also consistent. Those of you know with, now the number, 191, AB 191, each of the institutions have been asked to generate an estimated cost of what we think that would be in there. We estimated very conservatively that same roughly $700,000 number, but that also is far less than what some of our other peers are estimating. So that's how we came across it. I'm happy if it's going to be less. In my experience, it won't be. Thank you, Pete.
Good afternoon, Dr. Pollard. I'm so happy that you are now on the era of having our sports coming up in the campus, because basically we had that before, I think 3 to 4 years ago. So now the students are so excited that we finally have our own, sports here. Yeah. But my question is there any possibility of having a medical clinic in the future? Because basically we are expanding. Me personally, I'm a professor. I already have 4 incidents in my class that the students will rise up and ask if they could leave the classroom because they are not feeling good. So me personally, I think that's a need for us. I'm just wondering if that would be a project in the future.
Yes, ma'am. So I thank you for that question on so many levels. If Amber were here, she would have thought we planted you for that. So a couple things I think are important. The other place where we have the opportunity to generate revenue for the institution will be with us maximizing this land that we have at Nevada State. And that is a very complex proposition because we have a number of entities that have been talking with us. I personally love the idea of eds and meds. They work well together. I just had a group of folks here. We met with them on Friday, wasn't it? Who wanted to talk with us about more deeper partnerships of one of the new hospitals that are coming to the region. And they wanted to talk with us about, they said it 3 times. We're not saying that we have a sole source for nurses. But I was like, that's what you really want. You want us to just say that every nursing student graduates is going to go to this particular health institute. We're like, no, we're not going to do that. But we planted a seed with them. Wouldn't it be lovely for you to have a greater presence here? I've had another conversation with another entity that would like to explore that as well. We have some challenges. One is that the infrastructure, because anybody comes in, that initial outlay is going to be costly. They're going to have to do things around traffic, utilities, and all of those things that come in, but it makes good sense because it gives us an opportunity to really expand. The other thing is just a personal thing. A campus that, as we are growing and has as many students as we have on it now and employees, I've never worked on a campus where we didn't have some type of health center that allows us to go in. And this is a true story. The other day I wasn't feeling well. I said, oh, my blood pressure's up. I need to go have it checked. And I was like, oh, but I didn't. So I just waited till I went home and checked it and it was up and all that. But there's a way that I think as an organization we should be thinking about that. So I also met with another nonprofit that has gone into the healthcare business, and they're very interested in potentially partnering with us to do that. I think everybody's kind of waiting because one are wanting to see where the state is going to be as a result of this next session that they're in, where we're going to be with the feds. Now we've got more tariffs that we're going to be responding to. So I think the uncertainty, I think the Dow was down, it bounced back some up, but this is the first quarter it's been down consistently. So I think the economic uncertainty is making potential investors very uncomfortable. But one of the main functions that we have been doing is meeting with healthcare entities, entertainment-esque entities, housing entities. They would love to talk about coming on our campus. It's just a matter of getting them to put a piece of paper and a check in my hand. You're welcome. Thank you, dear.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Less of a question, more of a point of consideration, comment. I know something that I would appreciate, and I think faculty overall share somewhat the sentiment, is not drawing a direct link between budget deficits and faculty pay or faculty organizing. Last year I was new here, and I can't tell you how many times I heard COLA being blamed for budget issues and budget deficits. And I worry with the email that just went out that something similar will happen with the costs that are involved in organizing. I think implicit in the messaging is that we can't have nice things here because of faculty who are wanting increased pay, who are wanting more money for their families, things to change with respect to safety and conduct, and all of these really important issues. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a point of consideration.
Well, first of all, welcome. I hope that your first year has been a good one at the institution for the most part. Let me be very clear about this. Pete brought this to me the other day. We were talking, and I said, yeah, here's my problem with that. Not problem with you asking the question. Thank you for asking it. Everybody got the COLA. Faculty got it, academic faculty, administrative faculty, classified, and executives. I got the COLA. And as I tell people, I didn't write a check back to the institution. I took my COLA, right? I got a kid I'm going to put to college. I took my COLA. I think that there may be some internalization on that, but I want to be very clear. My messaging has never been that. My messaging has been very clear. As a matter of fact, when we did the COLA, the first thing out of my mouth was, we are prioritizing our employees. And I didn't say faculty, I didn't say staff, I said employees, because all of us are a part of that. What I would offer in this perspective, and the same thing with collective bargaining, any group who wants to collectively bargain, that is your right to do that. And I have not stood in the way of any of that. In fact, I think you all have voting this week. I just told Byrne to put out a memo. I don't want nobody going near the building. I don't want it to look like we have any intent to say anything. You go with it. Do what you got to do. But what I do want everybody to know, whether it be COLAs, whether it be collective bargaining, whether it be enrollment management, whether it be health and safety, those things cost money. And as an institution, we want nice things. We also want basic protections, right? So we have to be prepared to know that those things are going to have to be prioritized. So let me be very clear. There is no correlation between, in my eyes, faculty unionizing, faculty, do your thing, right? There's no correlation between that, academic faculty. There's no correlation between that. We all got the COLA. We all enjoy the COLA, I hope. We all wish there was another COLA coming. There ain't no COLA coming, okay? Just to let y'all know. But the reality about this is that the court, don't draw that conclusion, and don't anybody else draw the conclusion. I'm not drawing it. I'm not articulating that. What I'm simply saying, and what I want to be planful for, is that when I come back in June, July, and August and say, y'all, we all got the 11 and 12%. Now the state is going to do X, Y, or Z. We got to be prepared accordingly to know that there are certain consequences for all of us as a result of whatever the state does or does not do. So I hope I can dispel that belief that there is a correlation between the two, and yet I want everybody to be aware that there are indeed implications for every decision we make in a budget. Because what is a budget? Is the articulation of your values and priorities. So what do? We value and prioritize our employees. We value and hopefully prioritize campus safety and enrollment management. Those are the things that I would offer with that. And thank you for raising it. And I'm happy to say that again in as many spaces as I can. You're welcome.
Hi again, Dr.
And what
Pete.
discipline are you teaching in? Psychology? Oh, thank you.
Hi again. With Dr. Martini's question, it made me think about graduate students, and NSSA has been monitoring many bills as well as AB 191, but like you mentioned, particularly for graduate students, and you may have answered this already, but what are some implications of our graduate students?
Yeah, those are graduate students who are trying to organize, who have graduate assistantships. We don't offer those at this particular point at Nevada State. I'd love to in the future for us to be able to offer them, but we don't. So that particular piece of legislation doesn't have direct impact on us right now. What I will say is that I know a number of the collective bargaining entities across the state are supporting it, and others are as well. But again, if they want to unionize, good for them. And if they can get it done, good for them. But again, you just got to be prepared for the fact whenever you do something, there are consequences. That plain and simple. It isn't a matter of saying yes or no or trying to speak negatively. That's it. There are things you have to be prepared for. I think there are benefits to, let me stop because I know Berna's looking at me right now. Sorry. I know I was going to say, here's what I think are the benefits. I also heard some of the challenges, but she's going to tell me to shut up. So there you go. She gave me the look. I don't know. And then Stephen ain't cracked a smile yet, like Dr. Pollard, if you don't stop. All right.
Thank you, Dr. P.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Has there been any update on the campus safety consultant and the outcomes of what that was looking at? For the
Yeah,
institution?
we got a briefing, and I'm awaiting the final report. It'll be coming to us through our attorney because it will have an opportunity for us to, hopefully, there are some security issues in it, so we want to be very thoughtful about how it comes in. But as a result of that, one of the things we know for a fact that was recommended by the consultant was around, probably 4 main areas that we do some definite organizing within our institution, including having someone who's actually responsible for campus safety at the institution. So that's one of the things you saw in my budget priorities for this next year. Education and training was another one. And then third, getting clarity and ironing out, I'll put that nicely, our agreements that we have with UPD regarding their services to us. So we have been working thoughtfully around that. We know that we have a new chief at UPD who's very engaged, so I think I have a meeting scheduled with him in the next week or two to sit down and go over some of the findings from that report. But in short, those are the 3 broad categories of information, and then hopefully within the next couple of weeks we'll be talking more about that. Thank you, David.
I always got more questions. As we talk about strategic enrollment management, I was wondering, actually hoping, has there been any discussion in the Council of Presidents about begging the Board of Regents to engage in mission differentiation, which would allow each institution to more appropriately engage in enrollment management for their institution? Yeah,
you know that we have been talking about this informally for quite some time. I suspect it is going to come up more now because of the funding formula issue. And it is not even a COP conversation anymore. The Council of Presidents, we have agreed to disagree on this, and I think that's an important thing, that we're prepared to have those conversations and have been engaged with them. The challenge is going to be from the regents. They have to decide that this is what they want to do. And it looked like at one time we were kind of going down that pathway, and then it kind of stopped. I think part of it has to do with the dual credit conversation. I think there also has to be some conversation around enforcement of that, and how do you enforce it, and maybe perhaps it'll be the role of the new chancellor. That might be where that person will come in and hopefully get the regents in one spot on that.
Okay, I have a last question from an online splitter.
Okay.
MV Purse contributions are increasing by 1.75%, and our insurance premiums will increase starting July 1st. Can you provide an update regarding whether this mandatory increase will result in a pay cut for the lowest paid in general NSU employees?
I don't know that. I can find out. Actually, I don't know. I don't know. Look, I've been doing good. I haven't even had to tap into y'all, but I don't know if, Stephen, I'm looking at you. I don't know if you know anything about this or. So they increased the rates, but the question is, I think implicitly, will that have an adverse impact on the lowest paid employees? Perhaps, I don't know. But I'll go back and whoever that person is, if they would send me a message, I will have Dr. Walker or Dr. Kinney send a message out to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good one. I don't know. I was doing so good. All right, I'm getting the wrap-up finger. Anybody have last question or comment? Let me just look at my notes. I think I hit upon most of them. Somebody asked me about governance, which I did. Somebody asked me about athletics, which I did. I think that might be it. Anything else for the good of the order? So let me say thank you all. I hope you found this useful. If you have questions or comments, feel free to send it. I know many of y'all already do, so send me some notes. I welcome it. And in the midst of that, take care of yourself. We are going into the crazy period of April. I always say the institution, most institutions lose their mind in April. So let's just try to keep it together every once in a while. Y'all have a good one. Thank you all very much. I think that's a good question about employees. Gloria?